So you took a full-length 2-hour practice test, and then your score is not really what you wanted. So it gets you more stressed out, and then you go back to studying more vocabulary. But it doesn't tell you what went wrong. It doesn't tell you why you got that score. Was it missing vocabulary? Was it about grammar? Was it about the traps that the test makers put for you? You need to look into those. It feels awkward, it feels bad to look at your mistakes. I know, but you should do it. Today we're changing the game. We're going to run a high intensity 5 question diagnostic test right through your screen. Me and my team have curated 5 master level standard SAT questions that cover the pillars of the digital SAT: words and context, punctuation, transitions, data interpretation, and main idea. So if you're serious about getting into that dream college of yours, if you're serious and want to put in the work, and if you're that kind of student who gets things done, you need to put your phone aside, take a blank sheet of paper, write the numbers 1 through 5, and when I display the question, first I will pause and you try to guess the answer, and then I will solve it for you. And for each and every question, I'll tell you what the problem could be. I'll tell you what to work on, and I'll diagnose basically what is wrong. And I'll give you an exact diagnostic breakdown of what that tells about your score potential. So let's begin. Here's question number 1. Take your time, make your guess, and then I will solve it for you. Okay, so as always, I read the question first. I've talked about it in my other videos as well. What choice completes the text with the most logical and precise word or phrase? The research of Stanford University researcher Marcus Vance is celebrated for blank oceanic metrics and ensuring the correct application of those measurements. The ecological foundation established by Vance designed a suite of programs that allow maritime engineers to accurately classify, calculate, and display structural telemetry to the operators of deep sea vessels. So here's my thought process. So this researcher did something that is celebrated for something he did on the oceanic metrics, right? And what did this make possible? It made these possible. Engineers classifying, calculating, and displaying structural telemetry easily, right? So classifying, calculating, displaying structures. So these are the clues that I have from the text to guess what the answer could be. As I've said in my other video, fully covering the words in context questions, it's like a full masterclass. I've said it that you should first guess what the blank could be before even looking at the options. So he did something with these metrics that engineers can now classify, calculate, and display stuff. So, what did he do to these metrics? He investigated them, he calculated them, I don't know, he estimated, he researched them, something like that. Now, let's look at the options, see which one is closer to my guess. Analyzing. This is exactly what I've been looking for. So he analyzed these metrics and now they can classify, calculate, and display stuff. Inventing, there's no clue in the text about this being a first time thing. Plus, you cannot invent metrics, right? You have the metrics, you can analyze them, you can investigate them, you can do um, different kinds of research on them, but you cannot invent the metrics. You cannot invent data out of nowhere. So, inventing is totally wrong. Disputing, again, dispute means there was some kind of debate over something, there was a lack of agreement, and again, there are no clues as to such disputes having taken place. Exposing, again, means revealing something that was hidden or maybe a scandal being exposed. You cannot really expose the metrics, and it's simply the wrong answer. Analyzing is the correct answer. If you got this question wrong, you're probably not used to looking for clues in the text. So after the blank, there was more text. There's a reason that there's a lot of text. You need to be finding clues to what that blank should be. Maybe you're thinking about what sounds right in this sentence, but that's not what you should be doing because sometimes a few of the options sound correct, but the context makes it clear as to which one of these options you should be looking for. Again, in my masterclass, I've explained everything. Look for clues, make your guess, then look at the options. Now let's go for question number 2. So in this one, we've got, punctuation, English conventions. Some people love these, some people don't. But I think these are questions you can get really good points from. So take your time, pick your choice, and then watch me solve this. All right, so which choice completes the text so that it conforms to the conventions of standard English? All right. Identifying the precise origin of dark matter filaments has been challenging due to the scarcity of empirical data for any of the suggested theories and the lack of a definitive observational baseline for the phenomenon. All right, this is interesting. So, it's been challenging due to A and B. So we have a list of two, and we're just connecting them with this and over here. So we have a comma over here, but we don't in choices A and B. Let's see which one is correct. So the scarcity of empirical data, that's one for any of the suggested theories, and the lack of a definitive observational baseline. So this and this, I don't need any comma over here because it's a list of two. It's a simple compound structure, and I don't need any comma to separate these two. It's simply a list of two. Think of it like this. If I say I like pizza and coffee, I'm not going to need comma. I'm not going to say I like pizza comma, and coffee. I'm not going to say that. This is this is simply the same thing, but the words are just too many, so one might think that we need a comma over there, but we don't. So options C and D are out. So there's A and B, and the lack of a definitive observational baseline for the phenomenon. All right, this is interesting. So we have the lack of something. The lack of something. So here we have a preposition of, lack of, and then immediately after it, I need a noun phrase. Here we have a definitive observational baseline. The lack of a baseline. Again, I don't need a comma after such prepositions. Again, if I want to say, I'm going to Germany, I don't need a comma. I don't need to say I'm going to, comma, Germany. So such structures, lack of something, they need to be directly attached to the next part. So this one is also out. I don't need a comma there. I don't need a comma anywhere. And option A is the correct answer. If you got this one wrong, it's probably because you're relying on your internal thought on where a pause should be. Of course, that helps, especially if you listen to a lot of radio, if you listen to a lot of documentaries, scientific stuff, if you watch a lot of those and listen to a lot of those, that can be helpful. But these kind of punctuations and English conventions, they follow rigid structural laws. So once you learn these rules, you don't need to guess anymore. You can just use logic to cross out a few options and find the answer. So we saw a lot of words there. So you might think we need a pausing breath, but it's not the case. The rules of English language dictate what should be written down. All right, now it's time for question number 3, transitions. Take your time, pick your choice, and then watch me solve it. Which choice completes the text with the most logical transition? Elena Rostova was a botanist from Ukraine who documented a massive assortment of alpine flora with her sketches. Blank, she illustrated subglacial mosses, high altitude shrubs, and rare tundra blossoms throughout her fieldwork. Several of her botanical diagrams were included in university textbooks and helped to advance modern research in plant taxonomy. All right. So she was a botanist. She documented a massive assortment of alpine flora with her sketches. So in the first part, we're talking about a massive assortment of alpine flora. Then we have a transition, and we see she illustrated subglacial mosses, high altitude shrubs, rare tundra blossoms. So these are specific cases. These are narrowed down from that initial general overview, right? So let's see what makes sense here. Otherwise, doesn't make sense. We can't say she was a botanist, she made these sketches, otherwise, she made these sketches. No, she made those sketches, some of which were these. By contrast, again, is showing opposition, it's showing contrast, it's not the case. For example, is exactly what we're looking for. So she made a lot of sketches. For example, she illustrated subglacial mosses, high altitude shrubs, and rare tundra blossoms throughout her fieldwork. End of the sentence. The end of the sentence is here. Be careful. For this reason, this is a trap. Of course, some of you might have fallen for this one. And in that case, it means you're looking at the general plot of what's been written here. But transitions work between two sentences, right? They are connectors. So this, therefore that. This, in contrast, that. This, for example, that. And we are not looking at a cause and effect situation here. So that's why, for these reasons, doesn't work. You can't say she was a botanist, she documented a lot of stuff, and for this reason, she also illustrated these. No, this is not making sense because this is not a cause and effect situation. This is just a broad assortment, as they call it, a massive assortment. So she's got a lot of sketches. Some of them are these. So these are just examples. For example, she illustrated subglacial mosses, blah, blah, blah. You don't even need to know what these exactly mean. Don't worry about that. I've talked about it in my first video. You can watch it over here. All right, here goes question number 4, data and graph interpretation. Give it a try and then watch me solve it. Okay, so which choice best describes data from the figures that would weaken the student's argument? Okay, so this is the question, and this is what I should be focusing on. What's going to weaken the student's argument? So I have two graphs over here. Worldwide business to consumer sales in billions of US dollars, to 2012 up to 2018. Asterisks indicates a projection, a number of digital buyers worldwide in millions, 2011 up to 2016. Okay, so let's see what the passage says. Let's see what the student has come up with. Through observations of ticket sales at local independent cinemas over a 5-year period between 2011 and 2016, a student concludes that most entertainment consumers are increasingly interested in watching movies at in person venues. The student argues that while consumers may be aware of the possibility of internet streaming, they are not showing an increased interest in viewing content using an internet based platform. Okay, so he basically is saying people prefer cinemas, they don't want to go for internet based platforms to watch movies and use internet streaming. Okay, let's see. So, what I'm looking for here is what about this graph, these two graphs, is going to weaken this argument. Let's see. Choice A, the worldwide number of digital consumers and the worldwide business to consumer sales have an inverse relationship. So when I look at these graphs, I see that the number of digital buyers is going up almost linearly, and the worldwide business to consumer sales is also going up almost linearly. So they don't really have an inverse relationship. That is simply a wrong statement about these figures. So part A is not the correct answer. Part B, choice B, worldwide business to consumer sales and the number of digital consumers both consistently increased from 2011 to 2016, which is the case. You see, as I said, there's like a gradual linear increase in both of them, and that does weaken the student's argument. Why? Because he says or she says that people are not going for digital products. They are not using internet streaming, while the data is showing they probably are. So B could be the right answer. Let's see choice C. While consumers increasingly spent their money on internet based platforms between the years 2011 and 2016, consumers significantly curtailed the amount of money they spent at physical store locations. Okay, so this one's a bit of a trap answer. So here you see they curtailed the amount of money they spent at physical store locations. So we didn't really talk about physical stores. That's one of the issues here. And none of these graphs is showing us that they curtailed the amount of money they spent, that they decreased, that they reduced the amount of money they spent at these locations. So C is a wrong choice. C is not the answer. Choice D, the amount of digital consumer spending leveled off in the years 2015 and 2016, demonstrating an increasing reluctance to embrace a new medium for shopping. Okay, this one's also the exact opposite of what we're looking for. Again, we're looking to weaken the student's argument. So this one supports it. This one says, okay, 2015, 2016, they're not much different. That means an increased reluctance is there. So people don't really they're not really that excited to embrace these new platforms, which is again not what we're looking for. This wouldn't weaken the students' arguments. So part B, choice B, is the correct answer. A lot of advanced students get this one wrong. And it's probably not because of your reading speed or anything. Many times it's because there's a lot of background information. There's a lot of details in the graphs and in the data, and also long passages, long choices. So you might be getting overwhelmed. So think about the core idea. What is the hypothesis that I should be focusing on? Should I weaken this hypothesis or should I strengthen it? Should I support it? So if you narrow down your focus on what the question wants, this helps you ace these questions much more easily. Okay, here's one final question. Pause the video, try to answer it, and then watch me solve it. All right, so which choice best states the main idea of the text? Main idea questions are important. Suzani, the traditional embroidered textile of Uzbekistan's Tajik culture, has transformed into an emblem of diverse significance, political and artistic, Central Asian and European, ceremonial and utilitarian. What we identify as Suzani embodies multiple roles, states Elena M. Petrova, curator of the Museum of Decorative Arts, though she emphasizes its roots lie in hand stitched silk needlework. Yet Petrova notes Suzani emerges just as frequently today in contemporary high fashion upholstery and in alternative mediums that solidify its place as the most instantly identifiable Central Asian craft. Okay, so your formula for main idea passages is topic plus so what. So we're talking about Suzani, this traditional embroidered textile. Okay. Suzani, so what? What about it? So this whole text should answer this single question to me in one of these choices. Suzani, so what? Now let's see what the options have for us. Suzani can only be produced by specialized weavers. Well, that could be the case, but it's not really the main idea of the whole passage. It could be a detail. We're not looking for details. This is not my answer. My answer is actually right after this question that I asked. Suzani, so what? It has transformed into an emblem of diverse significance, political and artistic, Central Asian and European, ceremonial and utilitarian. It's a symbol for so many things. That's what's important about it. That's what the text is telling us. And then there are other details about it as well. So, part A is not really what we're looking for. Part B, many different types of Central Asian textiles are used in modern clothing. This could be the case, this could not be the case. I don't know. But we are not talking about many different types of Central Asian textiles. We're only talking about Suzani. So this is simply not what the text is trying to say. This is not the main idea of the text. C. The origins of Suzani are somewhat controversial. We didn't really talk about the origins of it. That's beyond the text. Another classic SAT trap, right? So it's beyond the text. We have no idea. We didn't read about it over here. Where does it come from? Whether it's controversial or not? C is not my answer. And it's certainly not the main idea of my text. Part D, Suzani has acquired a wide range of associations. That's exactly what it is. So there are many associations, political associations, artistic associations, a symbol of diverse significance, an emblem of diverse significance, Central Asian, European, ceremonial, utilitarian. So it is an important symbol. That's what the text is telling us. If you got this one wrong, you are probably focusing on details much more than the general scope of the text. So your choice should explain almost everything the text had to say, the main idea, the most important thing. Not every single detail, but the most important thing that the text tried to convey. So don't focus on too many small details and try to see the big picture. Now, if you've come along this far, that means you're serious about acing that SAT, about scoring high and getting into that dream college of yours. So that's why you can access two of my cheat sheets in the descriptions. One is about SAT traps, and another one is about decoding vocabulary using some of the most common roots for vocabulary. And if you want to take it another step further, you can join our community, take one-on-one lessons, learn together, and increase your score by studying smarter. We have a community. You can join us with our weekly Q&As, full courses, and all sorts of goodies. The links are below. And if you enjoyed this video and want to support us, please subscribe.